Welcome to another video. In this video, we're going to talk about step 2 of your journey in becoming QA automation engineer. I created an 8-step process for you that will make you a perfect engineer. Really, it's more than QA automation engineer. The 8 steps are to become an SDET, a software engineer in test. Step 1 was learning a programming language, and my suggestion is Python. I highly recommend Python. And step number 2 would be to learn the basics of testing. So in this video, I want to make 3 points. One, I want to show you exactly what testing is, just giving you a little preview of what you'll be getting into. Two, I want to explain why I choose this as step 2 and not as step 1. And step 3, or 3 in this video, I am going to talk about how to learn, right? Just give you a couple of resources. That's what I'm thinking. So the first one is, what does testing actually mean? So when we're talking about testing, it's making sure stuff works, but it's beyond that. As a tester, when you work in a company as a tester and automation engineer, so automation engineer is a tester. It's just instead of manually testing stuff, you are going to automatically testing. So you're going to write code that would automatically test the stuff you would have tested. So you still would have to manually go through the process, then you automate it, right? You can't automate something that you have not tested yet. So automation testers always manually test. It's just that they don't manually test all the time. So what does testing actually mean? You can just pause and look at this slide, but I'm going to talk about using real examples. So let's say we have this e-commerce website. This website I use on pretty much all my courses to practice, because it's a real e-commerce site that you can place orders, create users, and things like that. And I also have videos on how to build this thing. I'll put a link to instructions on how to build your own website like this so you can test it. It's a WordPress site. It's super easy, and it gives you access both to the front end and the back end. You have API access and database access. Production ready. It's not like a little sample playground. It is a real app, so you can come up with thousands of tests. So if you are working for a company, an e-commerce company, in this case, demostore.spreadsql.com, if you work in there and if you're a QA, your job is to make sure stuff works the way it's supposed to work. So one of the easiest example what you always see is login, right? You go to my account page and you have a login form. So the first test is, does the form even show up, right? That's part of it. So you're going to document that. That's called a test case. Does the form show up is a test case. So you will have a list of tests that you're going to run. As one of that list is going to be, does the login form shows up? Then you have tests saying, hey, does it has the right header? Does it has the right label? Is there a field? Is the field active? If I click on it, in this case, is there auto suggestions that comes up, right? That's a fancy test case. You should do that. Then that's like visual stuff. That does stuff show up, and you're going to do one at a time. Then does it work, right? Not only does it show up and does it look right, but does it work? So you're going to put in a password, a username, and a password that you expect to work. You log in and make sure the login works. You put in a username and the wrong password, and you make sure you get the right error message, right? There's a different kind of error message when you have a real user with bad password. There will be another error message when you have a user that doesn't exist at all. So you are testing it to using the product as if a user would. And you have to go the extra mile and think about, what would a user do? What would a user do that we did not intend for the user to do? Because users always try to do stuff that you did not plan for. So as a QA, you're basically trying to break it. Of course, you're going to test the basic stuff. Yeah, we expect the user to do that. So when the user does that the right thing happen. Yeah, that's the most common sense one, right? But also, like, what if the user does this weird stuff, right? Can our application handle it? What if the user put like 100 characters as a username, right? Does the application just blows up, or does it give the correct error message? That's part of the requirement. Applications, sometimes they can just blow up. You might get like a big error page or a 500 page. You might get a weird page, and instead of a good message saying, hey, you're doing something wrong. By design, usually you want to get a good message that shows the user that they're doing something wrong, as opposed to like a general 500 page or something like that, right? So you'll try to break it. As a QA, you're trying to break it. You know, technically in our lives, we are QAs. Everything we do, we test it. If you order something from Amazon or anywhere, what is the first thing you do when you get it? You're going to test it. Does it do what you want it to do? You bought it for a particular reason, and you're going to see if it does what it's supposed to do. You're just not going to document that process, right? And you're not going to go the extra mile saying, what if I do this? What if I do that? You're usually just going to use it the way you want to use it. You're not going to go and try to break it. But as a QA, you're always going to estimate. You got thousands and millions of people that are going to use this product. So you're going to be like, hey, what are the possible ways they can try to break it? Not intentionally, well, sometimes intentionally, but they're just going to try to use it in a way that you didn't expect. So you're going to test it. So on this page, you're going to have tons of tests, right? You start from the login page, the login form, Then you have the registration form. There's going to be tons of tests for the registration. Can I register with this kind of email, with that kind of email, without email, with this kind of password, that kind of password, things like that. You can even go further and you can be like, can I register from a different country? Can I be in the US? Can I be in Canada? Can I be in Ethiopia? Can I be in Nigeria? Can I be in Vietnam? Wherever you are, like your customers might be, you want to kind of make sure they can register. So there are ways to do that. There are ways you can simulate being there. Like there it depends on how the company implemented it, but you use VPN, so your website thinks you are in a particular place in a particular country, so you try to log in. That's like a little extra mile, right? If you have time. Usually you're so busy you don't get to do this kind of things because you're busy just testing the functionality. Usually we're like really busy. Normally you have like one QA for a bunch of developers, and now with AI, developers are building stuff so much faster. That means QAs have a lot of things to test. So of course we have to be using AI too to make ourselves more efficient. So that's what testing is. Other things like we want just going to stick with this e-commerce, adding item to the cart. So I have an album here, right? I add it to the cart. I go to the cart and I make sure stuff works. The cart shows up the right thing, increasing the numbers, decreasing works. You go to the checkout flow and you just added an album. So an album is a digital product, so it shouldn't be asking you for a shipping address, right? In this case, it is not, right? I have billing information. It's not asking for a shipping information. So that is a test that you're going to write. You're going to be like, you are the user. You're going to act like the user and be like, in the product owner, you have to care about the product. That's the whole thing. So you're going to say, okay, I'm trying to purchase a digital product. Does the web page ask me for shipping information? What if we have a physical product? Let's go to homepage again. Let's add this beanie into the cart. We go to the cart. Now we go to checkout. Right? When we go to checkout, now we know we have a physical product, so it should show us a shipping address. So we're going to come here and we're going to say, are you shipping to a different address? If so, then you're going to have to input it, right? That is part of the requirement. You're also going to use a common sense. Usually you would have a requirements list. You have some kind of document that says, what does the app do? When you do this, this should happen. You have requirements, so your job is making sure the requirement matches. The product matches the requirement. But a lot of times you have to use common sense too. Like the example I showed you right now is kind of common sense, right? Even if the requirements document doesn't explain it, you're going to have to be like, wait, I just ordered a music, like a downloadable. Why does it ask for a shipping address? So you're going to go to the product manager or the developer and you're going to just discuss it, bring it up. You're like, hey, I noticed this. This doesn't seem right to me. Is it a requirement? But finally, they make the decision. That is one thing. So that is just testing. But as QA, you're going to do so much more than just testing. Usually, you are the gatekeeper, right? You are software gets built, you're tested, and you're responsible for deploying it to the production environment. Production environment means the final destination where your customers, your clients are using it. So there's a bunch of environment here. You have a sample of the app. You have basically the app, but the public cannot access it. Once you test it, you make it available. And as a QA, usually you're responsible for that. You know which version of the app is going to be deployed. When is it going to be deployed? So you have to keep track of it. You're going to know Git, right? Whether you're a manual tester or automation tester, you're going to know Git. Git is a version control or code. So you might not know, if you're manual tester, you might not know how to use Git in terms of like creating your own commits, tracking your own code in Git and things like that. But you're going to understand branches. Branches are versions. Even as a manual tester, you got to keep track of which branch of the application is going to be deployed, which branch is in what environment, and things like that. So your responsibility is so much more than just testing. You are literally the gatekeeper. You're the one that says, hey, this software is ready to be pushed out to my clients, to the customers, or not. You actually call the shot. So it's a very important role in a company. All right. Now back to the slides just quickly. So the manual testing part, right? This is the terminology part. Why do you need to learn this part as step 2, not as step 1? A lot of people would say, oh, start with the basics, start learn to become QA automation, right? Learn the basics of QA, then you get into automation. I do it the reverse because when you're learning automation, when you're learning Python, it is coding and it never ends. It takes a long time to practice. It's like a sport. It's like learning how to play soccer or football or basketball. You got to keep practice. So I want you to start practicing Python. And while you're practicing Python, you're going to get into the basics. So when I talk about the basics, it is the process that I just explained, plus terminology. A lot of it is terminology, and the terminology is for interview reasons. Like on the job, there are probably 3-4 terms you're going to use total. But on interviews, of course, it's going to be terminology. They're just going to ask you, what does this mean? What does that mean? Especially at an entry level. So you're going to learn, whatever course you're going to take is going to focus on terminology, test cases, bug reports, regression, severity, which I can't say that word, priority, test plan, blah, blah. There is lots of terminology that you're going to memorize. That's why I put it at step 2, because you can be practicing, working on code, building stuff, and you can just memorize words. All right. So, how do you learn? You're just going to have to find courses, right? Of course, I'm going to promote my course first. I have a free course, completely free, just the basics. It really is beyond the basics. So, this is the page here. Obviously, the page can change at any time. I don't know why the words are so small. I just need to zoom. So, it's a free course. Register for this course. It got really the core things that you need. It really does, right? It's going to give you everything you need, but it's a lot more than that. It has SQL. It's like a really detailed SQL, a really detailed API, getting into technical things in addition to the processes. I don't focus on terminology yet. What I want to do is I want to add like interview questions section where I'm just going to add terminology there, because kind of goes hand to hand. So it's completely free, like no credit card required or anything like that. Check that out. I definitely would start there, and you can go into a bigger course. Even though this is 14 hours, majority of the time honestly is spent in the technical things. So it will give you a really good base, but you probably still want more because of the terminology things that I mentioned. So that's that. Another one is look for courses on platforms like Udemy. Udemy is awesome. There are really great courses. Pro tip, what I just found out is I live here in Vegas, and if you live here in Vegas, our library have access to Udemy, like all courses on Udemy for free. So check wherever you live, check your public library, just hit them up, call them, and ask them, do they give access to Udemy? They give, my library here, they give access to Udemy, LinkedIn Learning, and all of that. So a little tip, make sure you check that out. I mean, if you have it, it's so awesome. I really enjoy it now because like if I just want to check some topic out instead of going to Udemy and instead of going to YouTube, I can go to Udemy because it's more organized. Like for like courses to sit there and learn something, Udemy is better. Then another one is look for like ISTQB training. So ISTQB is a certificate for testers. Now the reason I say that is not because you get a certificate. If you want to get a certificate, go for it. I totally don't agree with that requirement of that certificate. Like I don't see the point. Now, when you look at the job search, it's not a lot of companies that are asking for ISTQB. I've been a QA for like 9 years before I heard the word. When I was promoting my bootcamp, people were calling me, doing marketing and stuff. They're asking me, hey, do you do ISTQB? I'm like, what the heck is ISTQB? Then I looked it up, and it's a real thing. It's a certificate. So, but I bring this up because when you're preparing for ISTQB's exam, you're going to learn a lot of terminology. You basically are becoming a test engineer, manual, right? Well, they have an automation version, but I'm talking about manual. So if you find a course that is for ISTQB, at the same time, you're learning all the terminology and everything you need to know to become manual tester. So I highly recommend you can look for something like that as well. All right. So start with my course and then do more research. I don't think you need to invest a lot on this one because you just need to know the basics and prepare for interviews. And you're going to target automation interviews, automation jobs. So the terminology is not going to be as important. It's going to be more technical, but you still need to know, of course. All right. So everything we just talked about right now, I have that PDF to be printed for you. I have the page too. I'll put the link in the description. So check it out. Download the roadmap. It's the 8-step roadmap. This is step number 2. So I'm going to create individual videos for each step. I already created one video that goes through all of them, right? One by one, just an overview. But now I'm creating a detailed video for each topic, right? So make sure you check out the description. If you want to become a QA automation engineer, software engineer in test, let me know. My contact information is everywhere, including the links to my website. I do have one-on-one coaching so I can hold your hands, create a plan, and really make you a software engineer in a short amount of time. I also have a membership and self-paced courses if you'd like to do that way. But the coaching, of course, is the fastest way to get a hands-on experience, a great resume, portfolio, and just really be ready for the job market and be very competitive. That's the advantage, actually, be very competitive. So check all that stuff out. Make sure you give this video a like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Check out one of those videos that's going to show up on the screen, which is related to what we're doing right now.